This
Uh,
conference will now be recorded.
okay, so the title of my talk is The Future Makers, Renewables and Solutions Narratives. And in this presentation, I hope to explore three key points. First of all, the Future Makers film, which is a film that I made some years ago, and I want to give you some background and context to that. It's a documentary. The second point is to do with the energy transition in Australia, considering what has happened since the time that the film was made, and how the energy transition in Australia is going and who some of the current future makers might be. And then the third point about the living labs, how some of the ideas gained from this experience is applied in my work at Western Sydney University, asking questions around the value of communication and media in this space. And those are my contact details at the bottom of the screen if you wish to be in touch with me after this. Okay, so the documentary, this is actually a very small summary from the website about the film. And it basically says, with attention on climate change, there's been a big focus on the problem, but what about the solutions? So the Future Makers documentary tells the story of key Australians leading the way on the world stage in renewable energy. Some are designing a future based on models in nature. Others are creating a sustainable energy model for a 21st century economy. People creating solutions that won't cost the earth. So there are many innovators in this space. And my question at that time was, why aren't we hearing their stories? Australia has some really key strengths in renewable energy, with many scientists who've been pioneers, especially in solar energy. For example, Professor Martin Green at the University of New South Wales, in his significant contribution to solar PV or photovoltaics research and developments in solar cell efficiencies. The uptake of rooftop solar in Australia has been remarkable over the past decade, and especially so since I made the film The Future Makers some years ago. So this is from a relatively recent report in November, end of 2024, from the Department of Energy and Climate Change. So it's one of their little updates about the uptake of rooftop solar, saying that the uptake has reached new heights, hitting 4 million installations across the country, with Australians installing about 300,000 rooftop systems a year. One in every three Aussie homes now has rooftop solar, which has been driven by the small-scale renewable energy scheme, cutting upfront costs by about 30%. And the average rooftop system, they say, saves a household more than $1,500 a year on energy bills. And they also point out that rooftop solar benefits the broader energy system by reducing wholesale prices and demand for more expensive sources of energy during the day. So in the film, I did explore a range of innovators in renewable energy. I did explore the solar space, but looking not only at solar photovoltaics, but also hybrid applications such as a boat that combined a solar sail with wind and solar. Plus, I looked at solar thermal as it was being explored at that time. I also looked at biomimicry, wave and tidal power, along with geothermal power. I was interested in looking at biomimicry as a design thinking strategy to explore how humans can live with the natural world. And there were two interesting technologies using this design principle. One, this tidal power device that you see in the window here, and the second one was a wave power system. Both of these were designed by Tim Finnegan, a company that he had at the time called Biopower Systems. And so part of this thinking was about drawing inspiration from the natural world, recognizing how the natural world works, but bringing some of those ideas into the design process. And a lot of this was, in terms of biomimicry, I drew from a lot of the work by Janine Benyus. She was a scientist, and then she became a science writer, and then she worked on this idea of biomimicry or innovation inspired by nature, and it's the idea of design inspired by nature. And so she was a key interviewee, and I explored some of her thought processes in the film. So that was the film, which was made some time ago. It was shown on Discovery Channel through the Asia Pacific and around the world in lots of different film festivals. I also showed it in lots of different community settings, also lots of universities. And we had a lot of discussions. It was often a great way to open up the discussion about renewables in Australia and around the world. You know, what are the things that are happening and who are some of the key people doing really interesting things. So, whilst it's true that the film was made some time ago, it's interesting to see how much of it is still relevant. And then also to think where to from this point. So, this is where I come on to the second section of this talk, the idea that the energy transition in Australia is happening. It's underway. I'm just checking to see, are we all, can you all see everything okay? Is that clear? Okay, sorry, I'm just going to go back to the presentation. I just wasn't sure if people are okay to see it all okay. Let me just go back to the main. Okay, so the energy transition's happening, it's underway. And so jumping forward from the Future Makers film era, which was quite some time ago, to today. And so now thinking about if we were doing a film like this today, who would we be looking at? Who might some of the interesting people be who are making changes and providing inspiration for the energy change? And what are some of the issues that show the differences between then, some of the things that we were looking at earlier, in the very early stages, in a way, of the uptake of renewable energy in Australia, and now? What are some of the big differences? And so, really, there are a few characters out there, like this person, Saul Griffith. He's a very interesting solar engineer who worked in the US for quite some time. He advised the Biden government on the Inflation Reduction Act, but then he came home during COVID back to Australia and has been advising the current Australian government on a very interesting local project called Rewiring Australia. And he's had quite a lot of media in the last couple of years, I'd say, since he's come back. So this is an image showing him being interviewed on one of our flagship current affairs programs on the national broadcaster, the ABC. He was also profiled in this particular episode of Australian Story in 2022. And you can actually find that on YouTube if you're interested in watching it. It's actually a really interesting episode where he explains his experience in the United States working with the Biden government on developing the Inflation Reduction Act, the contribution he made to that, and then how he came back to Australia and how he's been working in his local community. And so, oh, yeah, sorry. So going back to here. So the idea of this project, Rewiring Australia, is that they're working in a local suburban area in his local, in his location, which is south of Sydney, an area near Wollongong, which is it's a sort of regional town south of Sydney on the coast. And so he put forward a proposal as a pilot project, applying it to the local suburban area where he lives, inviting local people in the community to get on board with his plan, Rewiring Australia. And as you can see, what it does is it tries to educate people in what would it take for each household to really take on board renewable energy and energy efficiency, and what would it take to make this happen on a household level, and therefore within a suburb, because they also look at things like community batteries and all kinds of community networking as well. And so, as you can see from this diagram, they're very big on communication. It's very clearly outlined that you've got rooftop solar, you've got your heat pump unit, you've got the electric stove top, electric cars, the home backup battery, but also being able to feed into the electricity grid, and then the heat pump for the water heater. So you've got this whole sort of combination of the ideal home setup being networked like this, but being able to do it within a suburb and making sure that everybody can make the benefit of these initiatives. So with his colleagues, he lobbied the political leaders in Australia, in the national capital, to take his ideas seriously. And one of these was to argue for subsidies for batteries for households with solar rooftop PV. That's been a big, big push for the last couple of years. Not just him, it's not just this local pilot project, but quite a few different groups around Australia have been lobbying for this. And as it turns out, the campaign's been going for the last 2 years. And then just 2 days ago, actually, on Saturday, the Labor government announced their policy if they are re-elected, because we're right in the middle of an election campaign right now. So they announced that if they're re-elected in the upcoming election, that they will subsidise batteries for households. And, the reports are that there's 1 in 3 homes in Australia has solar PV. 1 in 40 homes has batteries. But this policy, they are hoping that this policy would change that, so that many of these homes that have solar PV would also have access to batteries, because they would have access to these subsidies. Now, I provide all of these links at the end of my talk if you're interested, but it's been very interesting to see how this is unfolding. And so this is this local area. This is the where it says electrify 2515. Well, that's actually the postcode for this suburb where Saul Griffith lives. And so these are some of the people in this local area who are on board with this whole project. And it's actually got a very happy vibe, as you can see from the photo. It looks very cheery, happy. Everyone's really delighted to be involved with it, and it all seems very promising. But what are the obstacles in the way? Well, one is community acceptance or social license to operate. And whilst these people in this suburb with the postcode 2515 have been invited to participate and they're enthusiastically embracing it, in the area just next door, it's actually a different story. So in this area, the Illawarra on the New South Wales south coast, which is right next to Saul Griffith's suburb, these people are protesting and saying, no, we don't want wind farms. So they're not interested so much in what Saul Griffith is proposing, which is very much a localised, the idea being that people have their own solar capacity on their rooftops and the rest of it. But meanwhile, off the coast from this area, there have been wind farms proposed, but there's been a lot of community opposition to that, even though there's lots of arguments that it's a misinformation campaign. Again, I'll provide the links. But you can see that there's been a lot of protesting. And in fact, even this headline is saying, look, this debate could influence the federal election, and it's already an absolute bloodfest. This is how it's been described. In this, also another story about another town down in Victoria. These two towns, which are side by side with each other, you've got one town which is very in favour of renewable energy and the other town which is very much against. So it's a tale of two towns that provides a perfect cast as the debate over renewables plays out on the political stage as voters make their views known at the ballot box. So it's interesting to see how people are responding. So how to counter the misinformation? Well, actually, recently one group's put forward the idea of community hubs to assist the transition process by providing good quality and accurate information to counter the misinformation and disinformation campaigns. And they see this as particularly needed in regional areas. So this story is about this effort. And so you see people in these areas, they're getting themselves organised, and they are saying that they've been forced to create their own community information groups to address concerns about the nation's rapid energy transition. So they're very involved in wanting to say, we want to be involved in providing good, proper information. And this person, Andrew Bray, he's the National Director of this Renewable Energy Alliance and Community Power Agency. And he's saying, look, that, if the Australian government wants to achieve this aim of an extra 33,000 gigawatt hours of electricity from 2020 to 2030, then they're going to need physical information hubs, not just online ones, but people in towns to be able to visit communities in the centre where people can visit and talk and get the proper information. And so these are just some examples where people are sort of really saying we need to fight back against misinformation campaigns. Okay, I might just stop there for a minute just to see whether anyone has any thoughts or questions so far before I get into the Living Labs side of things. Does anyone want to ask anything or say anything or comment? And if anyone wants to turn their cameras on, I'm more than happy to talk to a face if someone's there. Okay. Okay, look, I can keep going. Let me just keep going with the presentation. So you can still see it okay, I gather. Because I was thinking if, depending on what people wanted to do, if you're interested in following this, I could actually play some extracts from the film, although I'm not sure. We've only got possibly, Sam, I think, is it another 8 minutes or so left?
Yes.
8 minutes, okay. Well, look, let me just quickly jump in then to the next section, which was about the Living Labs. And what do we mean by the Living Labs? Well, at the university where I teach, we've developed this idea called the Living Laboratories, combination of research, storytelling, and creative practice, where we combine this transdisciplinary living lab model which was a collaboration between these two universities, UTS and Western Sydney, to try and help students to reflect critically on their, um, on their experience and their roles actually on the campus, and to develop skills in collaborative research, and to understand scientific and societal benefits of transdisciplinary outcomes for sustainable development. So this is where the Living Lab, that's kind of what the model is based on. But in my area of screen media, I have a lot of students who want to get practice on how to, shoot cameras, how to shoot film, how to tell their stories. And so part of it is actually getting them outside and getting them to interview experts. So here they are interviewing our sustainability expert on campus, Dr. Roger Atwater, and a local community member talking about the cleanup of this area beside the university. It's actually a creek. Now, you would never know that this was there. It's a beautiful bush area right in the middle of the university, very, very busy urban area, but there is this little creek area, and it actually has a lot of wildlife and a lot of, it's a whole sort of bush ecosystem. And so the idea is to take students down there into the natural environment and to give them practice with interviewing experts about sustainability, but within the context of the natural world, because one of the issues of sustainability is to help people see things in balance. It's not just about technology, but it's saying, we want to save the natural world and be part of the natural world and see the uptake of renewables as part of that move into a sustainable future. And so this was a comment from one of the students saying that one of her favourite class exercises was her visit to the creek located on the campus, and how the class interviewed Dr. Roger Atwater, who's an expert on environmental sustainability, talking about how they had multiple camera setups around the creek, how they moved around with angles, and different students took turns asking him questions. And she was saying she found this very interesting, not only revealing interesting information about the environment on the campus, but also gaining on-set experience with an expert. Okay, so look, I'll just jump out of there. They're the links that I was going to provide for you. But I guess the point of the Living Lab and the student experience is it ties in with what I've been doing with my research with my own filmmaking. It helps students understand and appreciate that a film that they might see on something like Discovery Channel is not just something that just appears out of nowhere, that it actually comes about through a process of research, of finding out about who are some potential experts, scientists, engineers, people who are working in this space, and to sit down and do a proper interview with those people, but also then to think about, okay, well, what visuals, what images can I use to bring that story to life and to communicate with people more widely? Because in my experience of dealing with a lot of engineers and scientists over many, many years, I do find that one of the biggest challenges is to do with communication. How do we communicate some of these stories and ideas in a way that brings these things to life, that make people feel like they're not just abstract ideas, that they are things that are going to affect people's lives in a very real sort of way. So yeah, so that's where this is all, this is the whole kind of overall context, but how it fits in with a university in terms of research, teaching and learning, and how we can carry forth a lot of these ideas out there into our communities to help people understand, in order to make the uptake of renewables and sustainable technologies and patterns of behaviour, and to see the rationale. Why does it matter? So this is part of it, to see the communication piece as a very important part of the puzzle. Okay, look, I don't know if I can add anything more. I'd be really happy to take questions or comments from anyone at all. There's, I think, 3 minutes left to go, Sam, but I'm happy to just leave it open for anyone who wishes to ask or say anything.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you can ask Marilla.
And I'm curious to know, actually, from any of the people participating, I mean, do you have stories that could be told using, you know, film or documentary technique or some kind of storytelling technique?
No, so no one responds.
No response. Okay. Do people want me to give you some of those links, or I mean, I was thinking one thing that could be really useful for people is even to have a look at the Australian Story episode about Saul Griffith. That might be worth looking at, perhaps people down the track, because it does tell a great story. I'll pop it into the chat if people want to check that out, and if anyone wants to follow anything up, then they can. And there's also, if you want to find out a bit more about the film that I made some years ago, The Future Makers, I'll pop that into the chat as well. As I said, it was made some time ago, and I am looking at the possibility of revisiting a film, but looking at the more contemporary issues and more contemporary matters that have come up since the film was made. Yep. So it'd be good to see some faces. I'm not sure, like, it's hard to know who's there if anyone's not speaking. Right.
Yeah, they all turned off their cameras. Actually, they haven't turned on their cameras.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, Sam, I think that's it from me. I haven't got anything else to add. So if anyone else wants to jump in and carry on with their talk next, then yep.
Okay, means have you concluded it?
I think we can say I've concluded it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Marilla. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for moderating the panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Do you have any questions? Like, if you have any questions, please you can ask Marilla Hatfield. Or if you want to contact her directly, you can contact her on her email ID. Yeah, Marilla, please text your email ID here in the chat box if they have any questions, or if they want to contact you, they will contact you by email.
Yep. Okay, I'll pop that into the chat box as well now. Just bear with me while I find it for you. I'll just copy it in. There we go. That's the email address over there.
Yes,
excellent.
Yeah.
So I'll stop sharing the screen then now, I guess.
Yeah, please. And we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Dr. Dae-In Jeong. He is from Asia Climate Change Education Center, South Korea.
Yeah, hello. I'm here. Okay, then.
Yeah, Doctor, please share your presentation.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Yes, so we can see your screen. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Can you get? Okay.
Yes.
How can make full screen? Wait a minute, please. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. First of all, I would like to give thanks to the organizing committee for inviting me as a speaker at such a great conference. Okay. My name is Dae-In Jeong. I'm serving as a director. Excuse me. Director of Asia Climate Change Education Center, South Korea, and also serving as the emeritus professor at Jeju National University. My major is environmental sociology, may be very unfamiliar terminology. Some of you, the environmental sociology is focusing on the mutual relationship between nature and the human society. So this is an approach to environment from social science side. Today, the topic I would like to present is how to overcome the limitations inherent in sustainable development. As all of us know, sustainable development is the present and the future ideology and practice of socio-economic development in a way to coexistence between nature and the humans. However, when we look at the concept and implications of sustainable development, we can find some limitations. If sustainable development has no limitations, I think the socio-economic has been developed in a way to coexistence between nature and the humans. However, as we know, we humans are still challenges with nature disaster and the human-induced environmental problems such as climate change. Therefore, I would like to introduce the first the emergency process of the concept and the implications of sustainable development. Even though here, neoclassical economy in the 19th century, they didn't use the terminology sustainable development. However, they have suggested the conceptual meaning of sustainable development. And in the 1970s, in social science, also some idea about the sustainable development has been suggested. However, and also in the 1970s, international organizations such as UNEP, IUCN, they suggested some idea about the sustainable development. However, officially, as we know, WCED and Rio Environmental Conference in the 1987 sustainable development has been suggested. So, in order to understand such an emergency process of sustainable development, we need to understand what is happening to nature since the industrial evolution in the 18th century. However, the time I have is only 25 minutes. I would like to start from the main part, part two, okay? Based on those review, we can identify some limitations inherent in sustainable development. I would like to suggest the limitations and how to overcome them. Based on that, we can reach a concluding remark. This is the whole outline I would like to present. Okay, what's happening to the nature since the industrial evolution in the 18th century, like the structure of ecosystem and the mechanism of nature being polluted and distracted in the process of industrialization, then we need to examine again the implications of industrialization. And I would like to skip all this chapter. Then, okay, as the main part, the neoclassical economy in the 19th century, okay, yeah, they did not use the terminology sustainable development. However, they argued market price of a product should include ecological cost for saving resources through increase in the market price of manufactured product. This is a way to prevent nature from being polluted. This means in 19th century, this is about 100 years since industrialization has been promoted. Then social scientists, they could identify and confirm something is happening to nature. So they reached a conclusion, ecological cost. This means in the process of resource extraction and producing goods and services and consumptions, then nature is impacted, polluted, and distracted. If we recover the damaged nature, we have to pay lots of money. That is ecological cost. Therefore, the market price does not include the ecological cost. So the neoclassical economists, they argued market price should include ecological cost. Then automatically market price will increase. Then the consumption will be reduced. This is a way to conserve nature. This is the first idea about the sustainable development. Then in the from 19th century until 1970s, no one argued about the negative impact of industrialization. So there were in 1970s two categories of social scientists. One is pessimistic perspective on industrialization. The other one is optimistic perspective. As we know, industrialization has improved very, very significantly material affluence and convenience in everyday life. In agricultural society, economically, we humans were very, very poor, and local, we were very inconvenient in everyday life. So, in order to improve such material affluence and convenience in everyday life, we extracted lots of resources from nature, and lots of these wastes were discharged to nature in the process of production and consumption. So the pessimistic perspective, they argued if industrialization is advanced continuously, we will be faced with unsustainability in terms of population, energy, food, pollution, so many things. Therefore, we should be satisfied with the current level of material affluence and convenience in everyday life with no more advance of industrialization. However, optimistic perspective, they argued industrialization should be advanced continuously. The limitations of industrialization can be overcome by innovation of technology and economic development based on reinvestment of capital. So, United Nations, IUCN, in the same period, 1970s, they started to have a concern about the industrialization because because nature is in motion on the basis of the earth as a unit. So environmental policy against the negative impact of industrialization by country is not effective, but global environmental policy would be more effective. Therefore, United Nations started to have a concern about industrialization, the positive and the negative impact. Then United Nations reached the conclusion industrialization cannot be stopped, however, cannot be promoted. Therefore, the conclusion was industrialization should be promoted, but in different way. This is a compromising, pessimistic and optimistic perspective on industrialization on the basis of cooperative activity among countries at the global level. Therefore, in 1970s, United Nations suggested an ideology, only one Earth. This is sustainable development, okay, only one Earth. And 10 years later, only one Earth has been changed to eco-development. However, United Nations did not suggest the action plan for achieving eco-development. However, these ideas, we can think the idea about the sustainable development. Then, 1987, as we know, WCED officially suggested the sustainable development, the terminology. Then, integrated conceptual framework, three component. Economic, its goal is development. Environmental, its goal is conservation. Society, its goal is to overcome poverty. Three components, and each component has different goals. Then the WCED did not suggest the action plan to achieve the sustainable development. However, in 1992, as we know, Rio Environmental Conference, they emphasized the concept and implications of sustainable development, and also suggested the action plan. And currently, the United Nations set up the goals of sustainable development in the 2000s. That was one was Millennium Development Goal. Now we have sustainable development goals. Okay, this is a comparison of difference between Millennium Development Goals and sustainable development goals in terms of number of goals, targeting country, key focus, leading actor, source of finance, and monitoring of implementations. However, after the sustainable development has been suggested, in social science, there were very hot debate on sustainable development. If sustainable development is useless or useful, and weak, strong sustainable development like that. So usually they argued sustainable development is important, but not a concept with any objective and scientific utility. Sacrifice of nature is inevitable in the process of economic development. So merely sustainable development is a concept implying different forms of economic development like that. Very, very negative perspective on the concept and the implications of sustainable development. Another debate on sustainable development comes from weak sustainability, strong sustainability. This is the different perspective on sustainable development in terms of the resource. Okay. Then I would like to skip this one. Okay. Then based on such a concept and implications of sustainable development and its implications, we can identify the limitations inherent in sustainable development. At least four categories. One is horizontal sustainable development. Its limitation is a horizontal perspective. Second one is not inclusive coverage of social sectors. Third one is less efficient approach to the achievement of sustainable development goals. Last one, no mechanism for driving social consensus. Let me explain in detail. As we can see, the original conceptual component of sustainable development, three conceptual components: economic, environmental, society. All right. Then the goal is of economy is development. This one, conservation. Society is composed to overcome poverty. All right. When we look at these three goals, they are different goals. Also, they are in conflict. So, the horizontal perspective. This means environmental goal, economy, society, okay. However, three goals are in conflict. For example, if we are focusing on promoting conservation of nature, economic development will be limited. And the goal of society, material affluence, convenience in life, will be limited. Those are in conflict. Nonetheless, leaves no control tower to solve the conflict, still result in human-induced societal challenges causing climate change, water security, like that. This is because the original concept and implication of sustainable development, they focus on the three components. The three are equally important. This is horizontal perspective. So, therefore, the vertical perspective would be more efficient and effective for achieving sustainable development. Three components are important. However, if we place them at the same priority, this is equally important. This is horizontal. Therefore, we need to place environmental at the top, and economic and society should be under the control of environment. This means if the development of economy, the goal of economy, the goal of society is against the goal of environment, then they should be controlled by environment control. However, these two can be in mutual benefit. So I would like to call such a framework the vertical perspective. So the vertical perspective would result in ecologicalization of not only environment but also economic and social sectors within the carrying capacity of nature. The second one, not inclusive coverage of society. As we can see here, the original concept, the component of society, only poverty, only one. However, there are so many other social sectors impacting on economy and environment. So I would like to say such a perspective, not inclusive coverage of social sectors. See, original framework focusing on poverty. So, for example, population growth, what technology we use, the lifestyle as a cultural ethos and the social form, those are very, very important sectors of society and impact on the goal of economy and on the goal of environment. However, they are neglected. Therefore, society as a whole would result in not in full sustainable development. This is the second limitation inherent in the concept and implications of sustainable development, not inclusive coverage of social sector. Third one, as we know, there are 17 major goals in sustainable development goals. Then when we say the 17 goals, they do not exist independently. Rather, they are in a mechanism interacting with each other as an integrated reality. Nonetheless, focusing on them as if they are independent realities. The means to achieve the goal are focused on more technology-based approach rather than nature. For example, in order to achieve the sustainable development goal broadly, we can have three categories. One is nature-based approach. The other one is technology-based approach. Third one is a social system approach. However, the means for achieving the sustainable development goal, when we look at the 70 goals, the means are mostly technology-based. Then it's not good enough, not efficient. So nature-based would be more desirable from long-term point of view in terms of reducing ecological cost, improving eco-efficiency. Finally, government policy is the basic guideline for achieving sustainable development. However, the other social organizations, such as enterprise or citizens, they do not accept the governmental policy, then sustainable development cannot be achieved. This means government policy is not good enough for achieving sustainable development. Therefore, enterprise and the citizens eco-friendly behave in everyday life. They have to had an agreement. This is a social consensus. However, the sustainable development goal does not have how to draw the social consensus. This means no mechanism for driving social consensus. Then the concluding remark, the sustainable development is the ideology practice of present and the future socio-economic development. Vertical perspective will be more desirable. And also when government establish the policies of sustainable development, government must introduce the governance system to the process of policy making for driving social consensus. So if we employ such a governance system, then means in the is internalization of social conflict in advance. Then another conclusion is, as we can see, in order to achieve sustainable development, we need lots of money. Also, we need a highly advanced technology. So if we have no money, we cannot do that. Therefore, we need to build the capacity of finance and also capacity of nature-based, technology-based solution, and the cultural ethos that should be transformed from consumerism to environmentalism. Consumerism is defined. We consume more than we need. This is industrialization. Environmentalism is we consume as much as we need. So if cultural ethos is on the basis of environmentalism, then less extraction of natural resource. This is the less impact of industrialization on nature. Okay, then I think as you can see here, this is the Titanic, very luxury, and this is the small, poor and small Noah's Ark in Christian Bible. So we can see Titanic to be sunk shortly into the sea. Okay, this is agricultural society. This is industrial society. Okay, so I think if we enjoy Titanic, our near future in everyday life, okay? We have to wear the mask. This is not the mask against COVID-19. This is a gas mask, Okay, we are in everyday life. This is our near future. We have to wear gas mask on our face. All right. We are guilty. We are deserved as much as we have done. However, the pet, the dog also should wear gas mask in the near future if we enjoy Titanic. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Cheong. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Any questions to Dr. Cheong? Any questions? Yeah. I think there is no questions, Doctor. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for your kind listening once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. And we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon KV Shiva Prasad, and is from Durham University, UK. And his presentation is on hydrogen-rich syngas production from biomass, experimental investigation and equilibrium, modeling for decarbonization in the UK's net zero strategy. Dr. Shiva Prasad. Dr. Shiva Prasad, can you hear me? Yeah, he's not responding. Then we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Cornelia, and she's from University of Economics in Katowice, Poland. And her presentation is on perception of coal's environmental friendliness by Polish coal trading enterprise, insights from a study of 300 coal deposits. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
making you a
hello.
presenter. Please share your screen.
Do you see my presentation?
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so hello to everyone. My name is Kornelia Przedworska. I represent the University of Economics in Katowice in Poland, where I am an assistant professor in the Department of Entrepreneurship. My interest focus on the impact of sustainable development on strategic flexibility, as well as the application of artificial intelligence in ESG reporting and strategic decision making. Today, the topic of my presentation is perception of coal's environmental friendliness by Polish coal trading enterprises, insights from a study of 300 coal depots. Thank you for the opportunity to present the results of my survey on environmental awareness among coal depot employees, because I believe that in the era of increasing environmental concern, it is important to understand how different occupational groups perceive the impact of their actions on air quality and climate. This presentation will cover the purpose of the study, provide the introduction, explain the methodology, present the research findings, and I will conclude with a summary. To begin with some data, coal remains a cornerstone of Poland's energy mix, accounting for 63% of electricity production and 11.7% of household energy consumption in 2023. This study aims to analyze how coal trading enterprises, particularly coal depots, the key players in coal distribution channels, perceive coal's environmental friendliness. At the beginning, since the conference is about renewable energy sources, I wanted to show the situation in Poland and the role that coal plays in it. And let's start with renewables. As we can see, if the country produces more electricity from renewable sources than total electricity it consumes, the RES-E ratio would be higher than 100%. And here you have an example of Norway. In Poland, as you can see on this chart, the chart shows that the share of renewable energy sources in electricity production in Poland in 2023 stood at 25%, placing Poland in the lower ranks among European countries. And Poland clearly lags behind the European Union average, which is 45%, which highlights that the energy transition in Poland is processing more slowly compared to the other European Union countries. This is largely due to the significant role of coal in Poland's energy mix, which has historically been the backbone of the country's energy sector. This graph shows the growth rate of the share of renewable energy in Poland. As can be seen in recent years, this process has accelerated significantly, which gives a chance to achieve 32% share of renewable energy in the mix in 2030. What are the challenges and barriers? The first one is coal dependency. Hard coal and lignite still accounts for the majority of electricity production. The second one is inefficient infrastructure. The underdeveloped energy grid hampers further expansion of RES, particularly wind and solar energy. The third one is policy resistance. While Poland's energy policy is gradually shifting towards RES, it continues to face resistance from the coal industry. Nevertheless, Poland is making significant investments in the development of renewable energy, including onshore and offshore wind farms, as well as photovoltaic projects. Energy transition is an imperative in the context of the EU's climate policy and the aim of achieving climate neutrality by 2050. To show how important coal is in Poland right now and where it is heading, I wanted to present this chart. This chart presents the projected changes in Poland's energy mix from the year 2015 to 2040, focusing on coal, RES, gas, and atom. As we can see, in 2015, coal dominated the energy landscape, accounting for 87% of production. However, its share has been steadily declining, dropping to 63% in 2023, and with forecasts suggesting it will fall further to just 9% in 2040. At the same time, renewable energy has seen a significant rise, starting at only 10% in 2015. It reached 27% in 2023, and by the year 2040, it is expected to become the primary energy source, making up 57% of the mix. As we can see, gas maintained a relatively stable share, contributing 10% in 2023 and projected to rise slightly to 15% in 2040. Interestingly, nuclear power enters the picture after year 2030, with its share steadily growing to 23% by 2040. This data highlights a clear shift away from coal toward cleaner energy sources, with renewables and nuclear power playing crucial roles in Poland's energy transition. While this demonstrates a commitment to sustainability and diversification, it also underscores the ongoing need to accelerate efforts to achieve a low-carbon economy. But still, nowadays, coal is very important in Poland. That's why the subject of my study was 300 retail companies involved in sale of coal products. The sample was selected purposefully. Sorry. The sample was selected purposefully based on specific criteria. Data obtained from authorized hard coal retailers cooperating with Polish mines and entities registered on Ciepło.gov.pl platform, where coal depots had to provide information about the prices of their products after the full-scale war in Ukraine. The survey was conducted using CAVI method. Questionnaires were sent to 3,238 coal depots and were self-completed by respondents. I finally received 300 completed questionnaires. This graph shows the availability of different coal assortments in coal depots. These assortments differ primarily in grain size, but also in parameters such as calorific value, ash, or sulfur. Thus, walnut has the highest availability at 96%. Cubes have an availability of almost 80%. Eco peas 62%, peas plus 57%, and the remaining peas have less availability. Each of these calls is clearly described by Polish law, taking into account granulation and quality parameters, as I said before. I carried out an analysis of 7 different types of coal: cubes, nut coal, eco peas, peas plus, and premium peas. Each type of coal was rated by respondents in terms of its environmental performance using 5 categories: very unecological, unecological, neutral, ecological, and very ecological. And the result shows that eco-P and premium P have the highest percentage of green and very green ratings, indicating their lower environmental impact. On the other hand, cube and nut coal have the higher percentage of non-ecological and very non-ecological ratings, suggesting a greater negative impact on the environment. It is worth noting that according to Polish law, premium P coal has the most ecological parameters and was rated as less ecological than eco-peas, which may be due precisely to use the prefix eco. But still, we must remember that I was doing research with professionals, yes? I must also notice that in November last year, the term eco in eco-P coal was withdrawn from the name, but market practice shows that coal with a grain size 5 to 25 millimeters is still commonly referred as eco-P coal. This name is used by both coal depots and their customers. In the next question, employees at the coal depots were asked to rate their preferences for purchasing coal, which is shown in blue in the graph, and the preferences of their customers, which is shown in red. The survey revealed significant differences in perception of purchasing preferences between coal depot employees and their customers. As we can see, employees of coal depots clearly prioritize aspects such as price and ease of use, whereas their customers place much greater value on good value for money and high calorific content. These results point to potential areas for improving communication and customer education about the value and quality of available coal products. Emphasizing environmental aspects, it is worth noting that both coal depot employees and their customers rarely highlighted ecological factors such as low sulfur content, reduced smoke production, environmental friendliness, and the minimal impact on health, indicated in orange box. These categories received relatively low percentages, indicating the need for greater environmental education and awareness among both coal suppliers and customers. Analysis of coal purchasing preferences reveals the need to better align offers and marketing strategies with actual customers' expectations. It will be crucial to promote products with a high calorific value and good value for money, which can help increase customer satisfaction and environmental sustainability. Special attention should also be paid to rising environmental awareness to emphasize the importance of choosing environmentally friendly fuel products. Respondents were also asked to identify the main sources of air pollution that they believe have the greatest impact on the country's air quality. Employees of coal depots identified industry as the most important source of air pollution, followed closely by rubbish burning and cars. An interesting observation is the relatively low share of emissions from the domestic burning solid fuels, only 5.3%, which may indicate differences in perception of problem compared to result of scientific studies. This result of the study highlight the importance of education and communication about sources of air pollution and the need to take into account different perspectives in environmental making policy. Further action should include raising awareness of the real impact of different sources of pollution and promoting more sustainable practices in industry and transport. Employees of coal depots were also asked whether burning coal can be environmentally neutral if high quality coal is used. The results of the survey are presented in the graph, showing the level of agreement with the statement. The results of the survey indicate that there is a significant variation in opinion among coal depot employees and environmental impact of burning high quality coal. Nevertheless, it is worth noting that as many as two-thirds of respondents agreed or completely agreed with the statement that burning coal can be environmentally neutral if it is of high quality. The analysis of environmental awareness among coal depot highlights the need for better information of environmental impact of coal burning. There is a need to increase education on the environmental aspects of coal burning and to promote products with a lower impact on air quality. And this is the summary. What are the challenges ahead? Poland faces considerable obstacles in balancing coal reliance with EU regulations aimed at reducing carbon emissions. The findings highlight the necessity for coal trading enterprises to adapt and innovate to meet both market demands and environmental standards. And future implications as Poland navigates its energy transition, the insights from the study can inform policy decisions and strategies for coal trading enterprises to enhance their sustainability practices and align with broader decarbonization goals. So, taking everything into consideration, I want to say that Poland struggles to balance the coal reliance with EU carbon reduction rules, requiring coal traders to adapt and innovate. and insights from the study can guide policies and strategies to enhance sustainability and align with decarbonization goals. Thank you very much for your attention, and I, of course, invite you for further discussion. You can contact me also via email or LinkedIn. I kindly invite. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cornelia. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Any questions?
Yeah. Question from me, Cornelia, Mariella.
Okay.
Hi. I'll turn my camera on. Yeah. Hi. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
And yeah, and my understanding from your presentation is highlighting the significance of workers' attitudes if there is going to be a transition to renewables or to cleaner technologies, and that the attitudes not only of the workers but also the community more widely is going to be essential for that uptake into that transition. And how are you finding people responding to your the presentation of your findings when you share your findings with people? How do you find that people respond? Are they saying, "Oh, great! Let's use this information to help us make this transition as well as we can"? Or yeah, I'm just curious to know.
I think that Poland nowadays has a problem with Green Deal and the transition because the energy carriers are quite valuable in Poland, have high prices, and the coal is one of the cheapest energy carriers. So people still think that we need this source of energy in our households. And in our industry also, yes, we can see the changes as put on the graphs, that the areas are slightly going up. So the energy mix in Poland is changing, but still the attitude of people, including employees of coal depots and customers, or even other people in Poland, um, shows that they are connected with coal. Yes, so it will be hard to resign from this source of energy, but I think that this attitude may change if we put some effort in further discussion. For example, the movies like you are doing, yes, are I think that they are important in this kind of discussion. So I think that everything may change, but we must put some effort in it.
Thank you very much, Cornelia. That's a really interesting insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, any more questions? No, I think no one is responding to the questions. Thank you, Cornelia. Thank you for the wonderful and excellent presentation. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Dr. K.V. Shivaprasad. Yeah, he's not responding. Yeah, we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to
Can
call
I
upon Dr.
speak? Can I present my talk, if possible?
Hi.
Yeah, Dr. Shivaprasad is available.
Okay, if Okay, if you know,
Yeah,
uh,
doctor, please.
yeah, okay, yeah. So just a minute. I can you please
Yeah, I permitted you to share your screen, doctor.
okay, okay, okay. Tap, screen, okay.
Yes, so we can see your screen. Please make it into a slideshow mode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So okay. So
Yeah,
can I speak now?
yes, please.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank
Yeah, make it into a full screen, please.
you. It's in full screen only. Uh,
Yeah, that's fine, Dr. Shiva Prasad. Please go ahead with the presentation.
yeah, that's fine
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shiva Prasad from Durham University, Durham, United Kingdom. I'll be speaking on my study on hydrogen-rich syngas production from biomass, experimental investigation and equilibrium modeling for decarbonization in the UK net zero strategy. Uh, the growing dependence on fossil fuels has escalated the global energy crisis and worsened the environmental pollution. As we know, hydrogen is the most promising alternative fuel because of its clean and uh, high energy content. Biomass, one of the renewable, stand out as a renewable and carbon neutral resource, which can be pyrolyzed or which can be gasified to produce hydrogen and other related syngas. Uh, in the 2050 UK's net zero strategy, bioenergy is expected to play a major role. As of, as of 2024, uh, bioenergy contributed about 14 percentage of UK's total electrical supply, making it so one of these second largest renewable energy source with respect to others. This presentation explores the potential of producing bio hydrogen-laden syngas from locally available agricultural feedstock and waste treatment sludge using pyrolysis plant. So this is the pyrolyzer. Pyrolysis. What do you mean by pyrolysis? Is one of the thermochemical conversion method, which takes place in the absence of oxygen.
Yeah,
So
Dr. Shiva Prasad, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your slides are not moving. Please change the slides simultaneously, please.
is it
No, I think you're presenting on second or third slide now.
now? I'm in third slide.
Yeah, please click on third slide. We are seeing the first one. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So pyrolysis, is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So pyrolysis is the one of the thermochemical conversion method where the biomass or agriculture feedstock is pyrolyzed or it is chemically converted into uh, syngas in the absence of oxygen. So when it is get pyrolyzed, it converted into liquid syngas and the solid waste product called biochar. So this is the 1 kg hour plant which is at Durham University lab. So it has as you seen on the screen, it has a controlling panel, feed hopper, auger heater, and the bubblers, and the recirculating water cooler. So this is the photographic view of the pyrolysis plant, so which is fully instrumented with the exhaust gas analyzer, which uh, that can uh, that can gives the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and other hydrocarbon uh, gas proportions. And it has the power monitor to monitor the power consumption, and the flows and pressure sensor to find out the pressure and the flow of the syngas which is producing during the pyrolysis process. So as you can see here, feed hopper, so where we feed the known amount of biomass material into the uh, reaction chamber. So our auger heater can heated up to 1000 degrees centigrade, and once it get heat, once it gets heated, the syngas which passes through these bubblers has three uh, three bubblers has water which uh, takes out the any residuals present in the gas, and then it goes to the water cooler where it get cooled down, and finally we can get the uh, syngas which is then fed into the exhaust gas analyzer for the monitoring purpose. So during this experiment, we carried out three different biomass materials. One is from sawdust and wheat straw, and the sewage sludge from the water treatment plant. So we carried out this experiment at 850 degrees centigrade at uh, pyrolysis auger speed at 10 rpm, and for each test we used 350 grams of biomass material. So before conducting experiment, we have to process the material which is suited for the pyrolyzer. So sawdust is in pellet form, then it has to hammer down to 1 to 3 mm, and wheat straw which is at straw form, we use some grass cutter and shredder in order to process the feedstock. And for water sludge, we used the drying method with the tumbler dryer as well as normal furnace to uh, reduce its moisture from 70 percentage to 15 percentage of in it. So we also carried out the elemental analysis. This is essential in order to uh, in order to uh, uh, in order to fed into the aspen model. So we conduct the both ultimate analysis and the proximate analysis. um, as you seen on the screen, the sawdust which has a 43% around 43 percentage of carbon in it, compared to sewage sludge of 30.9. Coming to the proximate analysis, wheat has the highest volatile matter, and if you see on the ash content, the sewage sludge has a more percentage of ash in it. So this is the pyrolysis model. So here uh, uh, the pyrolysis model which is carried out by using okay, which is carried out with the Haspen Plus software. As you seen on the screen, it has drying unit, decomposer unit, equilibrium unit, and cyclone, and some cooling components in it. And finally we'll have a liquid separator. So here drying unit, which dries out the feed material to the required percentage. So whatever the the elemental analysis properties which has to used which used in this system model to get the uh, gas composition at the in the end of this um, model. So this slides gives the percentage of the biomass gasified. If you see, as you seen on the screen, around 76 percentage of biomass, that is sewage sludge, is converted into gas, whereas wheat, which has lowest because of the the straw form. So and the see sawdust, which has a 76 percentage, as it is in the pellet form, and the size is 1 to 3 mm. So and it is in the solid form. So the amount of the by amount of the sawdust which is converted into gas is highest. So what this slides provides the information about the type of feedstock which has to be, uh, if it is in pellet form, then we can get the more percentage of the gas from it. If it is in straw form, that is wheat, the percentage of the gasification is fewer than the pellet form. So this is the result analysis. We compared the both experimental result with the simulation results. So we also carried out the root mean square error analysis, which indicates the how our experimental results is valid with the Aspen model. So as you can see here, the syngas consists of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, and ethylene, hydrogen, and other hydrocarbon in it. So our main aim is to uh, aim is to produce hydrogen. So we are concentrate on the hydrogen gas in it. So as you can see in the wheat straw, which gives around 31 percentage of hydrogen, whereas sawdust, which gives around 40 percentage of hydrogen, whereas in sludge, so which gives around 46 percentage of hydrogen. So when compared to the simulation results, which is nearly about 5%, 5 of root mean square analysis error analysis. So it provides the validation of the experimental result. So and also the carbon monoxide percentage of the of carbon monoxide in the gas uh, is about 30 percentage in the sludge, whereas in uh, sawdust, which is uh, similar to sludge, but compared to wheat straw, it is around 25 percentage. We also conduct the the predicted daily gas production in liters with all these all three materials. So as you can see on the plot, so here the hydrogen, the sewage sludge pyrolysis process gives about 4,789 liters per day of hydrogen. In comparison of the wheat straw is about 2,336 liters, whereas in sawdust, which provides 4,467 of hydrogen liters of hydrogen in a day. So the total gas production, it would be around, uh, if compared to, if you see on the sewage sludge, it is about 10,272 liters per day if the auger, or if the pyrolyzer runs 24 hours in a day. So also we predicted the uh, gas yield, that is 1 kilogram of biomass material. So from 1 kg of sewage sludge, the hydrogen can give 151 liters per kg, whereas sewage sawdust, which gives 131.5 liters per 1 kilogram of uh, sawdust. So the total gas production, which consists of all the gases, which is around 325 and 326, with the which is near to each other, of sawdust as well as sewage sludge. The main key takeaways from this uh, presentation is that the modeling and the experimental result validate the biogas, validate the biomass can be used to produce hydrogen uh, via pyrolysis process. And we also as I mentioned, we also conduct the RMSC analysis. So the model accuracy, which shown well within the limit. So our model is validated with the experimental result. The conversion efficiency of the biomass material, that is sawdust, is about 78 percentage, and wheat straw is about 68 percentage, and sewage sludge, it is about 66 percentage. The hydrogen yield, as I mentioned, the hydrogen, which varies between 31 percentage to 46 percentage. The sewage sludge, which gives around 45 percentage of hydrogen, and whereas sawdust, which is 40 percentage. And the hydrogen output, that is in per kg of each bio feedstock, is for sewage sludge, it is 151.5 liters, whereas sawdust is 131.5 liters per 1 kilogram of uh, sawdust material. So the coming to the power consumption, the it varies from 0.28 to zero point 0.4 kilowatt hour per 1 kilogram of biomass material. The power consumption mainly depends upon the type of materials, or type of biomass materials used in the pyrolyzer. So if it is pellet form, if it is processed in the pellet form, then the consumption will be less than the straw form of biomass. And the waste material, that is the biochar, the solid char, which can be which has the highest heating value, and it is potential for energy recovery, or we can use it as a bioplastic material, uh, or as a filtering material. The Mainly the future scope would be to enhance the reactor design, and exploring novel catalyst, and optimizing the tar. Further cracking of the syngas would increase the yield of hydrogen. So thank you for your attention. If any questions, please. Hello. Hi. Hello.
Yeah, Any questions to Dr. Shiva Prasad? I think if there is no questions, Dr. Shiva Prasad, please text your email ID here in the chat box. If they have anything, they will contact you back, or if they want to contact you, they will contact you by email.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Dr. Dawris from University Malaysia, Perlis, Malaysia, and his presentation is on the title, The Status of Solar Energy in Iraq.
Thank you so much. Could you give me to share my presentation?
Yeah, please.
Now is okay?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much for the organizer to invite me as keynote speaker for the conference today. I will talk about the status of solar energy in Iraq for the updated information and the current situation for the solar energy in Iraq. So, sorry. The carbon oxide emissions, industry, human activities, and grid electricity distribution have attracted a great attention owing to the state of current crude oil production. The estimation of solar radiation levels and efficiencies of PVs, concentrated solar power, and chimney towers, as well as other renewable energies such as wind energy, tidal, and geothermal energy, are also of interest. Potential sites for the solar panels can can be selected according to the maximum solar radiation. An overview for future
Yeah,
demands.
Dr. Yarab, I'm sorry. I need to move on your slide simultaneously while presenting, please.
Is it
Yeah,
okay now?
no, we are seeing the first slide.
That's all now?
No, just click on here, the second one. Just click on second one.
Just wait to stop and share again.
Yeah, please. The slides are not moving, actually.
Okay. Let me see. Now it's okay?
Yeah, now you can see your presentation. Just click on the...
Now full screen?
Yes, perfect.
The second slide is okay for you?
Yes, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So to continue, an overview for the future demands and possible solar energy supply is presented. Longitude and latitude orientations, wind, solar intensity, dust and temperature, rain, humidity, and pollution factors are taken into account to calculate the PVCP CSP efficiencies. In addition to the fundamental characteristics of solar radiation in Iraq are summarized. Furthermore, desalination of underground or polluted water to support solar energy systems and plants required to preserve a clean environment and low dust climate are presented. For the alternative solar energy in Iraq, measurements of daily total global solar radiation and duration of bright sunshine have been carried out in Iraq by the Iraqi Meteorological Organization, IMO, for many years ago. A daily observation of sunshine duration are recorded for or by Campbell Stokes type heliograph, and values of global solar radiation are obtained from the bimetallic robustic actionography record. For the climatological and topographic standpoints, the actinometric measurements are considered to present the northern, central, and southern zones of Iraq. The amount of solar radiation received by the Earth's surface varies with location, owing to the attenuation properties of the atmosphere and diverse geographic characteristics of the surface. Hence, detailed studies of solar radiation under local climatic conditions have been done for various locations. From 1991 until 2003, this is the new or the previous status of solar energy. The grid distribution was uh, inoperative because of disruptive uh, causes by destruction of sabotage. The network is old and unsuitable to sustain excessive power loading and massive losses caused by vice versa power handling. Moreover, the network requires complete modernization with replacement by a robust smart grid instead of additional problematic overloading. Climatic data such as sunshine period in the specific geographic area, in addition to humidity, air temperature, atmospheric condition, and wind speed, like clouds, mist, fogs, and aerosol concentrations, are usually readily available. However, sometimes specific meteorological data are easier to deal with and more punctual for long periods. The necessity for radiation data to cover a large area has led to developing radiation models that allow radiation parameters calculation within certain percentage of error. The aforementioned areas have a desert climate, rivers flood in winter, and are dry in summer. Rainfall collection dams are required along these dry valleys, such as Wadi Al Miyah, Horon, Wadi Tibble, and Wadi Al Thirthar. Smaller valleys can also be considered. The scarcity of water requires greater attention toward collecting water resources, which are only available seasonally during short period of time. The rapid depletion of fossil fuel resources worldwide has initiated an urgent search for alternative energy source to meet current demands. Alternative sources such as solar and wind, which are clean, inexhaustible, and environmentally friendly, are potential renewable energy resources. A system that combines various sources of energy is called hybrid, such as, not a new concept, have received a great attention in recent decades by different researchers like Yang et al. The reference is mentioned already, who recommended an optimal design model for hybrid solar wind energy in China that uses battery banks to calculate system optimum configuration. Baghdad is receiving more than 3,000 hours of solar radiation per year. Hourly solar intensity varies between 4836 megajoule per meter square in January to 9686 megajoule per meter square in June. So many studies have been achieved to determine formulas for the solar intensity representation in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. Different practical and theoretical studies were initiated to study in Iraq the domestic water heaters and coolers via solar energy and to construct theoretical models for solar water heaters. These studies showed homogeneity between theoretical and practical or experimental results. Subsequently, Subsequently, these studies have shifted to find ways for improving the solar cell efficiency for power generation. The experimental investigation of Trombe walls have confirmed the solar energy potential during winter in Iraq. Finally, the solar radiation data viability is a crucial for economical purpose of solar energy. Here is the table to show the Republic of Iraq Meteorological Office for the different values in the period 1961 until 92 for all stations starting from south of Iraq, mid of Iraq, or middle of Iraq until north of Iraq. You can see there are different data indicate for latitudes, longitudes, elevation, and the annual solar energy radiation in megajoule per meter square a year. Also, the sunshine and global solar radiation estimated for measured meteorological data, estimated values for the another period from 1977 until 2000. Okay, along 1 year starting from January until December. Selected three different sites: Kirkuk, Tikrit, and Tos Hormato, to see the sunshine hours and radiation capacity for different period of time a year, okay, for the three different sites. Here is the correlation between the solar radiation with the month, a year, and also the same correlation for different sites, one in middle to west of Iraq and the second one in south of Iraq. And you can see for the south of Iraq, the solar radiation is almost 16 megajoule per meter square, higher than the middle of Iraq is almost 15 megajoule per meter square a day. Here is also the variation of carbon dioxide emission from gaseous fuel consumption, percentage of the total in Iraq for the period 1971 until 2012. Okay, so the highest percentage of emission was in 1995. It was the critical period of time in Iraq when there was embargo imposed on Iraq at that time. So everything was halted, and the factories, industries was blocked. So definitely the carbon dioxide emission will be in the highest percentage rate. Here is another graph to show the monthly average direct radiation of selected site in Iraq from south of Iraq until west and middle of Iraq of different sites and different season between summer and winter solarity in Iraq. You can see the highest solarity time will be around June, July. Okay, the highest one here is Al Anbar in a violet color. Why? Because Al Anbar is west of Iraq. This is a big desert in Iraq. Is almost a third part of the Iraq surface area. Also here, outlook capacity factor of a grid-connected PV system as a function of global irradiance. Okay, so the consumption of energy is increasing dramatically. Okay, starting from year 2000 and expected to continue until 2050. Okay, so it's expected to consume around 3,000 kilowatt per hour per meter square a year. This work has been published in Journal of Renewable and Sustainable Energy. The original title is Solar Energy Status in Iraq, Abundant and or Not, Steps Forward. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Any question or comment? I am ready.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Yarub. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Any questions to Dr. Yarub? Yeah, any questions? Yeah, I think there is no questions, Dr. Yarub. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Shantanu Ghosh, who is from IIT Delhi, India. His presentation is on consequence of electronic and nuclear energy, loss of heavy ions in nanostructured oxides, perspective nuclear energy materials. Yeah,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Shantanu. Yeah, I permitted you to share your
Now I
screen.
can share. Sure, sure. Yes, 1 minute. Is it shared? Is it visible?
No, Professor. Just please click on share. Below there is an option for you to click on share and choose the application.
Is it visible?
No.
Now I can see there is a share option. Now I think it's fine.
Yes, it is fine now. Yeah.
Sorry, I think my camera is not working, so I won't be able to switch on the
And
video.
please share the slide. I mean, like change the slide simultaneously while presenting. Okay.
You're changing the slide?
Yes. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I thank organizers for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation on our work titled as Consequence of Electronic and Nuclear Energy Loss of Heavy Ions in Nanostructured Oxide. And this is on the perspective of nuclear energy material. I'm Shantanu Ghosh from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. And other workers who were involved in this work is Dr. Huck, Dr. Kalita, Dr. Gupta, and Professor Avasti. I'd just like to connect it with the sustainability issues because there are three important aspects of my talk. One is nuclear energy, second is nuclear material, and the third is ion material interaction. So if you look at this, nuclear energy can always contribute to sustainability by providing a low carbon and reliable energy source and reducing greenhouse gas emissions and offering pathways to cleaner energy system, although it also addresses challenges related to waste management and safety. Similarly, when we talk about nuclear energy, we have to deal with nuclear materials, and it is always a potential pathway to a more sustainable future by providing a low carbon, reliable electricity source. The third part of my, the motivation of this talk is because I will discuss everything in the perspective of ion material interaction, where ion interact with materials, and that are crucial for development of sustainable technologies, especially in areas like energy storage, water purification, and material science. Why I would I have to introduce ion material interaction, because when we do study in the laboratory, we cannot use a nuclear reactor for our study. So what we need to do, we have to mimic the environment of nuclear reactor, and that is possible with energetic ions or accelerator, and I will show that how one can mimic that. Let me just go to the very basic part of energy loss process in the material. So you have low energy ion and low energy ion or LEI, and swift heavy ion or SHI, where we can see that the low energy ion, basically it loses its energy efficiently initially when the incident energy is much less, and then it peaks at certain point, and then it drops. And then in electronic energy loss, it enhances, and it becomes much higher at relatively higher energy in few million electron volt regime. So when we talk about low energy ion, it is basically an elastic collision process which happens. And when we talk about the swift heavy ion or high energy ion, it is a process where an ion passes to the material and then it creates some kind of track by giving energy to the electrons and phonons. So if we look at it various stages that how the energy loss takes place. So the first stage, which is very fast in 10 to the power minus 17, 10 to the power minus 16 second stage, the energy deposition is initially done on the electron by the ion, and then some delta electrons are generated, which is the stage 3, and stage 2 and stage 3. This energy which has been, these electrons gets excited, and the energy which the electrons get shared among them, it gets transferred to the lattice by a complex electron photon coupling process, and it also happens in sub-nanosecond time scale. Eventually, it modifies the lattice, and you can see what happens at the equilibrium, or when we see in the experiment, there is a clear modification of the material. Now, why we choose high energy? Because it is having very high temperature, very short time scale, narrow spatial extent, and it's a unique tool to modify material down to nanoscale. And most of my talk, it will be based on the nanoscale material, how good the nanoscale material as nuclear energy material. So I'll start with certain motivations. So you can see that nuclear energy, which people think that will play a vital role in near future in fulfilling energy requirements. And the materials employed in nuclear industry subjected to various high and low energy particles, and that is prone to undesirable radiation damages. So you can see this is a typical nuclear reactor, but when we go inside the nuclear reactor, what are the particles we see are fission fragments, alpha particles, alpha recoils, neutrons, etc. And therefore, in order to understand this interaction, we need the an accelerator and mimic this environment with the help of okay. And one very important thing, because we have to remember that we have rapidly depleting fossil fuels and the climate change, and therefore nuclear energy will fulfill this energy requirement. Something called, we all know that the plutonium is one of the fuel element instead of uranium, and one can have it in the inert matrix fuel. In the inert matrix fuel, which is uranium free fuel concept, where plutonium is embedded in some kind of inert material matrix. Okay, and the properties of the matrix is that they have very low neutron capture cross section, compatibility with the fissile material, high melting point, and high thermal conductivity, and they are also radiation tolerant. So what we have considered, instead of plutonium, because it is not very easy to work with, we have considered this zirconium oxide, which is almost similar structure at plutonium oxide. And then we looked at the properties of zirconium oxide. And also one has to know that zirconium oxide, it is very difficult to get a phase stabilized oxide. One has to do an additional yttrium oxide, or we call it yttrium stabilized zirconium. So these are the following parameters which we have looked into: nuclear and electronic energy loss, fluence, temperature, and grain size. And among all these 4 parameters, temperature and grain size are the most important parameters which we have looked in detail. So what people think that when we are at the low energy regime, the grain boundaries actually act like a defect sink. So initially, Bai et al. In their paper, in the science paper, they told that there is a possibility that the grain boundaries act as defect sink, and therefore at lower energy, the material which are in the bulk form are not stable, but in nanocrystalline form, they are more stable. It has also been experimentally verified later by Sanchita De et al. And also, people have studied the same thing in many other nuclear energy material, and almost similar kind of conclusion they got. And therefore, it raised an open issue which tells that we have to investigate the effect of grain size or the crystallite size on the radiation tolerance against high energy radiation. And the third part is the temperature. So what people have found in the literature, we can irradiate at higher temperature. Why we need to do irradiation at higher temperature? Because if we want to mimic the nuclear reactor environment, we have to go at least the surrounding temperature, which is close to 1000 Kelvin. And higher the irradiation temperature, higher or faster is the radiation damage. It has been established by various studies, and we have also seen that higher the radiation temperature, is lower is the radiation damage when we talk about nanophase material. Okay. Now we'll look at the investigation on the effect of grain size and see that how temperature evolves, and at elevated temperature, what is the radiation damage. So let me just show some result on interplay between grain size and environmental temperature. And this is the work where we have demonstrated that. So what we did, we actually irradiate our samples with 80 MeV silver ion. So look at its electronic energy loss and nuclear energy loss, and look at the actual fission fragment electronic energy loss and nuclear energy loss. This is what we get from the reactor. This is what we can get from the accelerator. And it seems that these ion can exactly mimic the fission fragment which we get in the nuclear reactor. And this ion was provided to us by an accelerator facility in India, in New Delhi. So what is been seen in the after the irradiation, for all the samples, there is a clear peak broadening. And if we plot the FWHM, it clearly shows that there is a degradation of the crystallinity of an irradiation. Okay. And there is, the degradation is lower when we go to higher temperature irradiation. That means at high temperature, there is some kind of annealing process which is taking place. So if you look at it at room temperature and high temperature irradiation, you can see at room temperature irradiation, there are a lot of different clusters produced. So it is almost like a blurred image, crystalline image in the transmission electron microscope. And there are a lot of different clusters which are marked. But when we go to high temperature, it again gets back to crystallinity because it gains energy from the temperature. And similarly, what we have noticed that when we irradiate at high temperature and room temperature, there is no defect annealing or damage reduction after annealing at room temperature sample. So therefore, we can say that not the sample are thermally aided annealing for irradiation-induced defect, and there are some kind of dynamic effect is involved, and a theory which tells that, which is popularly known as thermal spike model, which you can see that if we solve these two equations, the typical temperature profiles in the sample will follow these. So this is temperature versus temperature time profile, where in a fraction of or a nanosecond or sub-nanosecond time scale, there is a huge temperature rise, and in a very confined zone, you can look at there are only few nanometers. Therefore, it is extremely effective when we talk about nanomaterial. So let me just make a comparison between low energy and high energy. The comparison is required because, you know, in the reactor core, we do have fission fragments which are high energy. We do have alpha recoils or alpha particle which are low energy. So for low energy radiation, it is elastic collision driven, and therefore there are point defects. It leads to high temperature due to irradiation. There is increased migration or thermally aided defects, and then the enhanced defect clustering, which I showed you in the TM image, and therefore there are higher damage. Now, if we go to higher energy radiation, it is basically driven by the thermal spike process, just how I have shown, and the quenching, the thermal, whatever temperature is generated, it immediately quench, and therefore what we see a lower damage. Now what we did a little more experiment which considering various grain size of the material. And as I told you, the material which can mimic it is plutonium dioxide, is yttrium stabilized zirconia. So generally the fission fragment which you get in the nuclear reactor are barium and krypton of 70 MeV and 100 MeV. We have used 80 MeV silver in the accelerator. So it almost mimics the environment of fission fragments here. So we produce three samples or synthesize three samples. One sample is grown at 600 degrees centigrade, another is sintered at 800 degrees centigrade, another is 1300 degrees centigrade. So when we grow material at different temperature, you can see the 600 and 800 degrees centigrade are highly nanocrystalline because their grain size or crystallite size are very small. But when we sinter it at 1300 degrees centigrade, the grains are grown, so we call it something like bulk crystallite, and this is also supported by X-ray diffraction. Okay, so what happened when we irradiate all these three samples, S600, S800, and S1300? For the time being, let us forget about the intermediate one, considering S600 and 1300. 600 is nanophase material and 1300 is a bulk-like material. So what happened after irradiation? There is a clear decrease in the XRD intensity, and also there is a peak broadening. So there is a degradation in crystallinity. And then when we go to high temperature, so the degradation or broadening, if we say 29%, at high temperature it becomes 15%. So I mentioned that at higher temperature, what happened whenever there is a kind of amorphization or the crystalline degradation is taking place, when we irradiate at higher temperature, they also get energy from the environment, and there is a growth of crystalline sizes, crystallinity again. And this is the same thing which we can see is happening at the sample which are grown at 1300 degrees centigrade. So the question is, why larger damage in nanocrystalline system? It is due to strong electron photon coupling, as I mentioned initially, which leads to very high temperature. So in one slide, we can explain that what happened when you have a large fraction of grain boundaries and grain size is almost equal to phonon mean free path. We have for the nanocrystalline, there is significant scattering of electron and phonon by grain boundaries. Stronger electron phonon coupling leads to higher damage. But when you consider bulk-like material, the small fraction of grain boundaries with grain size slightly higher than phonon mean free path, scattering is negligible, weaker electron phonon coupling, higher thermal conductivity, and lower damage. Okay. So now actually I skip it. So I have a summary at this stage. So what we have understood that a better radiation tolerance of nanocrystalline state is not universal. It is only for low energy radiation. In smaller the grain size, lower is the radiation tolerance, again high energy radiation. And when we talk about the reduction in radiation damage, that is what happened at high temperature. For higher or electronic energy losses, AC dependent, the damage reduction is, however, considerably stronger for nanocrystalline state. So both possibilities, what we get for nanocrystalline state, we get higher damage, but we recover the damage very fast at higher temperature. So how much time do I have? Okay. So I just have one open question, that if we have both, say, lower and higher energy particle falling exactly on the material, which exactly mimics the nuclear reactor core environment, because this is the way the nuclear reactor core, we get actual fission fragment, we get low energy particle also. And let me just go to that here, that if we want to look at it, how much radiation tolerant the materials are in the nuclear reactor environment, one can mimic this environment using an accelerator where simultaneously material can be irradiated with low energy, which we have considered 900 kV iodine and 27 million electron volt iron, which is higher energy. And this was done in the Genus-Saclay, France, which is one of the unique facilities in the world where low and high energy, both ion, can interact with the material. Okay, so if we look at what is the radiation damage, so again we look at this nanocrystalline material. So generally its damage, if we calculate from X-ray diffraction, is around 7%. But when we consider both low and high energy, that is iron and iodine both, it is damage is 21%. But when you go to bulk-like material, its initial damage is 26% with iodine, that is only with low energy. But when we consider both low and high energy, its damage is very high, 47%. So you can see that it's very clearly for nanocrystalline, we have much less damage as compared to bulk material. And this can be modeled with something what is called the sequential irradiation, a theoretical framework which has been done by the people, but I'm not going to discuss this in detail. So let me conclude that irrespective of irradiation temperature, nanocrystalline sample gets more damage than bulk sample. attributed stronger electron photon coupling and lower thermal conductivity. However, for all grain sizes, lower irradiation damage, that is at higher temperature compared to room temperature, attributes to weaker electron photon coupling and better heat dissipation. And reduction in radiation damage is very high for nanocrystalline sample. Interplay between grain size and environmental temperature plays a very crucial role in determining the final radiation damage. And then when we consider the both the high energy and low energy, almost similar to nuclear reactor environment, nanomaterials are always better to use because the radiation damage is much less. So this is the list of collaborators who had participated in different stages with our group, and for all this result, whatever we get, and I'm thankful to them. And we also acknowledge our some of our colleagues, some facilities like Pelletron facilities at IUSC New Delhi and Jena Sekle, and nano research facilities at IIT Delhi, and Department of Atomic Energy India, and CIFIPRA for financial assistance. Thank you. So if you have any question, please let me know. Any question? So I give it to the organizers. They can. Hello.
Hello, am I audible? Hello. Hello, am I audible? Santi from Canada, continue. Hello. Hello. Good day to everyone. I'm issuing this speech.
Mashud, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Couldn't you hear me? I had started.
Yeah, Mashud, your voice is not audible, so just please increase your volume and present the presentation, please.
Okay, okay, let me start it again. Is it presenting there? Can you
Yeah,
see
now
it
I
there?
can see your screen and your slides. Yeah, please go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Uh, okay, so mm if you haven't heard me up till now, then I can repeat what I was saying. That we have to present the research on unlocking climate finance for renewable energy. We actually proposed a unified climate finance model for Turkey, Central Asia, and Pakistan. Uh, the idea is, and the goal is to mobilize 12 to 15 billion dollars in climate finance by 2030. And 2030 is the impact area for the goal region and for the global goals, unlocking 25 gigawatts of new renewable energy capacity. And if you talk about impact, a 15 to 20% reduction in renewable energy financing costs, enhanced energy security, and strategic decarbonization across the region. Uh, I would like you to stay connected to this slide, so when we end the presentation, we would end again at this slide so we can know how and when are we going to achieve this. The objectives include the policy intersections, like if we make a Venn diagram of these countries and we will have the intersections in policies regarding regional trade agreements, RTAs, and multilateral bilateral projects. Those areas we can find out, and then the climate finance avenues and the opportunities regarding crediting and offsetting and decarbonization projects, just as World Bank has already started for the similar region, including Jordan. And then we can have the adequate resource sharing in the region without much political, religious, or ideological barriers, which can be seen in other areas of the world. But here it can be done peacefully using the CPEC corridor of Pakistan and the other regional stabilities of Turkey, the connection with Asia and Europe, and then Central Asian states. Uh, Below Russia without disturbing any resources of global north, without demanding from them. So this is basically founded, the idea is founded on the climate justice. So if the countries of global south can integrate with each other, they would not need to look out for the funds from the global north. Then the focus would be on public-private partnerships in the nations as well as international collaborations. And then we can harness the Central Asian potential of renewables because there is a lot of potential wind corridors in Central Asia. I would not be specifying Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, but now we are looking at the region as a whole. There are these wind corridors, and then there is the solar potential, and we can have integrative policies in Pakistan to reduce socio-economic stress, the IMF loans and the World Bank loans, and introduce policies independent of global laws. So that is how we can conclude an economy which is based on these countries as a whole. Uh, then the food for thought is these four questions that where are we going? The first question is the current state of renewable energy development in all these countries which can enhance the climate finance. Then the key barriers to scale up climate finance for renewable energy and how they can be addressed in all of these countries. Then how the policy frameworks, institutional arrangements, and market structures influence climate finance mobilization, specifically in renewable energy and generally in all decarbonization projects. And then the fourth question we have is that which models and approaches to climate finance for renewable energy show the greatest promise for application. So if this project is scaled up in these countries, then what can be the barriers and what can be the potentials, and if we can see a whole SWOT analysis there. Looking up in For the Turkey, we have a policy-driven
Mashud,
renewable
while
energy.
presenting, please share, rotate your slides simultaneously, change the slides. As we can see, now we are on the second slide. I think you are presenting on the fifth or sixth, I hope.
You are on which slide?
Second. Now it's fifth. It's,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, sure. I will
yeah,
do it
please.
without full screen. Is it like visible? Is it visible?
Yes, yes, it is visible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when we highlight the countries, Turkey is a policy-driven renewable energy market with a capacity of 53.5 gigawatts, and Kazakhstan is an implemented carbon pricing via an ETS. It uses less than 3% of its 5,000 potential renewable energy potential. And talking about Pakistan, attracting over $35 billion in energy investment through CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, with the significant renewable ambitions. Looking at the analytical framework, there is an institutional study. There are multiple think tanks like Shura in Turkey, SDPI Renewables First in Pakistan, and then Joint Green Finance Platform and regional investment funds you can create with the Central Asian states. So these think tanks can come together and they can build an energy transition theory which can dynamicize the whole of the paradigm shift, or you can say the energy integration in the whole market, the power market. So then the analysis where we are brought with the analysis is the climate finance readiness, the capacity to access and deploy climate finance in all of these nations, which has to be done by collaborative efforts, as I said, through the private sector think tanks, and then public sector, the government, and the non-governmental organizations. They all have to work together for this. Uh, Moving on to those policy and regulatory frameworks that will provide the foundation of these collaborations. So as I was talking about Turkey, so there is a huge energy landscape, the demand growth, high import dependency, and diversification towards renewables that happens because of its geography and economy. There's a huge renewable potential, 48 gigawatt for wind, hydropower, geothermal, and biomass. So we can see that there is renewable energy potential, but it is not signified against the fossil fuels. Typically, now Turkey has an installed renewable capacity by the data of 2023, 53.5 gigawatts, as we discussed earlier. If we talk about the trend from 2010 to 2023, we can see regular increase in all the renewable sources. Typically about solar, we can see that in 2010 there was no single source for utilizing or harnessing solar energy. But now, after 15 years, we have 9.5 gigawatt of solar, 12.3 gigawatt of wind, uh, and 31.5 for hydro, 1.7 for geothermal, 1.5 for biomass, and that makes about 53.5 gigawatt for total capacity of renewable energy, which makes up actually 54%. Um, so increasing the renewable integration above 50% is a success for Turkey, and that is a semi-developed country. If we divide the countries according to economies into developing and developed countries, Turkey falls into between, especially when talking about Asian countries like Central Asian states and Pakistan. So they can lead it here in the project. Coming to the regulatory framework, they have it in 2005, 2013, 2014, continuously integrating their national policies for the global goals of 2030 agenda. And the recent NDCs, nationally determined contributions of Turkey, show that they are continuously working for renewable energy integration. If we talk about the support mechanism, again, I'm going to put the think tanks, again, the feed-in tariffs and local manufacturing premiums, the regional enablers that could be joint green investment platform or green finance platform. They can be initiated by licenses. that are already given under 5 megawatts. It is not required, and the priority grid connection for renewable projects is already present in Turkey. Talking about their commitments, again for the 2030 agenda, 2023 targets contain 24 gigawatt hydro, 20 gigawatt wind, 5 gigawatt solar, 1 geothermal, and 1 biomass. And their 2035 targets, which are updated regarding NDCs for Turkey, they include 60 gigawatts renewable capacity, which is 65% of the total. So, getting along from 2023, 54% to 2035, 65% of the total sources, which gives us an access to the climate finance landscape, where the investment again is regularly increasing from 2010 to 2023, which was $1.8 billion in 2010. And as I told earlier, that there was no source for harnessing solar energy, that $1.8 billion were invested in hydropower and wind. But now, if we look into 2023, it is $4.2 billion investment in solar, wind, and hydropower, where geothermal is already habilitated. If we talk about the enablers, like how can we find the strength in this project, then we can see a political stability and predictability, which has been going on since 2010. Market liberalization, facilitating private sector participation, strong institutional capacity, diverse renewable resource base, because there is no single resource. Just like Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan face a solar rush. Turkey hasn't faced a solar rush because it has a diverse renewable base, including geothermal and biomass. So, and again, the thing which Turkey enjoys is strategic geographic position between Europe and Asia regarding the resources and its management. If we talk about the challenges or the weaknesses, we can have a macroeconomic instability, the currency volatility of lira, and the inflation currently going on. Grid integration is a challenge, but it is being worked on by Shura as a think tank of Turkey. And then policy reversals affecting investor confidence, and the mismatch of currency while performing the carbon pricing policies within Europe or within the trade agreements with the United States. So these can be the potential barriers which need to be addressed. Now talking about energy context in Central Asia, there they have a varying energy profile, and these are influenced by abundant fossil fuel resources. The geography of Russia and the Central Asian states are totally influenced by abundant fossil fuel resources, especially in the north. And then the common challenges, further challenges include the old infrastructure and the seasonal energy supply demand imbalances and limited regional cooperation. The issue that has been created after the USSR division, the Central Asian states came into being, and then there is a hostility between these regions. But talking about their international investments and political connections, it is good with Pakistan as well and the Turkey. So these two regions can build a good cooperation with each other. If we talk about Kazakhstan, then there is a heavy coal dependence, and they have a highest energy consumption per capita. And Uzbekistan is a natural gas-driven country, and they initiate energy sector reforms. 20% renewable source is included in Uzbekistan. In Turkmenistan, they have been dominated by natural gas production, just like Uzbekistan, and they have domestic energy subsidies. They have IPPs working for the power markets, and in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, they rely on hydropower, but due to reliance on hydropower, they have to face seasonal shortages. In summer and winter, they have very loads, and to communicate those loads, they have to perform load shedding, which gives bad impact on the economy and the power markets of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. If we talk about again their comparison, a numeric comparison, So you can see the potential and share of renewable energy generation. So in Kazakhstan, you can see 13.7, and in Uzbekistan, you can see 10.2, which is kind of moderate. And as compared to Turkey, they are below the line, but excluding Turkmenistan, they all have a huge diversified renewable energy base. Concluding to which, in Kazakhstan, we have 98.4% of share of generation from renewable energy. So with this huge chunk in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, for the renewable energy potential, we cannot see that there is an impossibility or low probability for renewable energy. It is a good area to be focused and enhancing climate finance and integrating climate finance. Uh, when there is a whole landscape comparison, we have from 2018 to 2023, we have cumulative investment of 3750 in Kazakhstan, 2150 in Uzbekistan. Turkmenistan is again lowest in all of the nations with $65 million, and again it makes up a total of $6,895 million in 2020. Here, if we talk about the key enablers, we have three typical fingertips, and those three fingertips are economic reforms, which are already being done to promote private investment, to carry out private investment, and then the strategic partnerships with international financial institutions, just like Asian Development Bank and IMF and World Bank. They come out with probable ideas, and then they can attract a local funding. And the transparent auction mechanisms introduced in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, these together can conclude the whole success potential for renewable energy integration and later on climate finance landscape. The challenges here are energy subsidy, distorts market, because this subsidy is given to the fossil fuel. If the fossil fuel area is subsidized, you have to bear clash with the power markets that are to be driven by renewables. Then their institutional capacity and infrastructure challenges are not as much prepared as of Pakistan and Turkey, so they have to develop it over the line from like below 20% to around about 50% where it is in Pakistan and Turkey. Then there are regional tensions between among each other. These tensions limit cooperation, but over the period of time, over the history, we have seen a good relation of the central relationships with both Pakistan and Turkey. So if these relations are tied together, then the regional hostility can come to an end. Not end if they can be minimized. Okay, now if we talk about Pakistan, so from 2010 to 2023, we can see uh, low mechanized uh, low mechanized gigawatts of renewable energy, where in 2010 they had 6.5 gigawatts of renewable energy, which were hydro. They had no investment and zero collaborative measures in wind, solar, and biomass. Later on, coming to 2015, they started investing in all areas, which shows a keen observance to deliver a huge renewable base, diversified renewable base, because they invested in wind, solar, biomass over the line. So not just they were investing in hydropower as in 2010, they started investing in other renewable sources. In 2020, even though it was in the COVID time, the investments enlarged for the renewable sector of Pakistan, and the power markets kind of strengthened with 9.8 gigawatts of hydropower, 1.2 gigawatts of wind, zero point 0.6 of solar, zero point 0.4 of biomass, giving up total 12 gigawatts. In 2023, these numbers increased, and now we had solar rush in Pakistan with 1.8 gigawatt creation of the total capacity, making up 34.1% renewable energy generation in Pakistan for the whole period. Talking about climate finance landscape, we have to see an irregular responses in the investment, because investment is largely concerned by international funders. So it depends upon politics and geopolitical location of Pakistan. Here we can see that in 2015 we had $780 million of investment, where dominant technologies were again hydropower and wind. Contributing it to 2023, we had $1,320 million, which was contributing to solar, hydropower, and wind oil. Of all the scenarios in all these countries, we have one thing common, which is a regular keen observance of renewable energy integration to hit for the climate finance. Here, the enabling factors are the strategic partnerships, just like CPEC with China, policy evolutions, the recent national government contributions and adaptation plans, and then the strong resource quality, attracting private sector developers, which can be used for public-private partnership model, which was being taken from Turkey in our earlier slides. Challenges here in Pakistan is number one challenge, and the biggest challenge is financial stability challenges due to circular debt. The higher the circular debt, higher the loans, and then it becomes difficult to invest in the renewable energy sector. Then there is limited transmission capacity and grid stability. There is a weak infrastructure as compared to Central Asia and Turkey. And the policy implementation gaps and currency risks are always there if the circular debt is higher than the current limit. Talking about the regulatory frameworks, here from Turkey, Central Asia, and Pakistan, we can have a legal framework well established in Turkey, widely accepted in Central Asia, and moderately developed in Pakistan. The targets, especially NDCs, are specific and technology-based in Turkey, ambitious but frequently revised in Pakistan, and it varies along Central Asian states, with generally topping Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan on the line. Support mechanisms are diverse and market-based in Turkey, limited and inadequately weak in Central Asia, and they shift from administrative to competitive support mechanisms in Pakistan. It is specifically a bad thing to happen, but it has a silver lining that gives power to the private sector against the public sector, which can dominate the public-private partnership. If we talk about policy stability, they are occasional. There are occasional reversals, but low stability is in Pakistan and Central Asia, and they are frequently changed, as also talked about support mechanisms. And institutional capacity, if we order them or rank them, then number one is Turkey, number two is Pakistan, and number three is Central Asian states. In the investment trends, we can again rank it into the similar behavior, that number one is Turkey, number two is Pakistan, and number three are Central Asian states, where $3.9 billion are annually invested in Turkey, $1.5 to $2 billion are invested in Pakistan, and $1.4 billion are invested in Central Asian states. So from these investment trends, we can go back to what we had in slide 2. And now with these trends, we can have regional collaborations to mobilize $12 to $15 billion by 2030. And then we can have collaborative mechanisms. We can name it a joint clean finance platform, regional renewable energy investment fund, and knowledge sharing and policy alignment via NDCs and regional trade agreements. As we have already discussed Turkey, Kazakhstan, and Pakistan and their investment trends, then we can have the impact that the cost would be reduced from 15 to 20% in renewable energy sector, and then we can see accelerated decarbonization in industrial area and commercial area with good energy security and economic diversification. And the success factors, in the success factors, the major and the big chunk is the intention and political will. Number two is technical and financial support with MDPs and private sector, because they do not have to depend too much on the global north. The global north will remain busy in their political and military solutions, and supporting Global South in renewable energy integration and climate resilience and adaptation would never become a good chunk of priority for Global North. So they have to somehow manipulate it within themselves, the Global South. And then the cross-border coordination is very important for Turkey, Pakistan, and Central Asian states. So that is how I would like to end the presentation. And if there are any questions, they are more than welcome.
Yeah, any questions? I think there is no questions, Mashud Urfi. Thank you for your excellent presentation, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, we'll move on to our next presentation. I would like to call upon Dr. Bauro Yuri Alexeyev. Yeah, Bauro. Bauro. Dr. Bauro Alexeyevich, can you hear me? Yeah, so by this we came to end for our webinar, and I would like to thank all the attendees and participants of today's conference. Hope you enjoyed it, and request you to attend a future conference too. Thank you and have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.